Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to introduce today's Alumni Leadership Awards recipient, Gretchen Wilcox, from the class of 1977. Mrs. Wilcox is the president and founder of G.S. Wilcox and Company, which was established in 1994. G.S. Wilcox and Company was the first and remains the only female-founded commercial real estate mortgage banking company in the United States. The company is one of the top independently owned mortgage banking firms in the country. In 2005, Mrs. Wilcox was named one of the top 50 women in business by NJ Biz, and also a woman of influence by Forum magazine. A graduate of Babson College with a double major in finance and quantitative methods, Mrs. Wilcox is involved with numerous professional and philanthropic associations and serves on the board of directors for the New Jersey State Chamber of Commerce, NAIOP, and Strategic Mortgage Alliance. It is my pleasure to present the 2013 Alumni Leadership Award to Mrs. Gretchen Wilcox.
Is this the marching band? Thank you for having me here today. I first would like to say it's such a treat to have my family with me here. My father is class of 49, and I think he deserves, first of all, one of the best words of wisdom that my father gave me when I came to Suffield was that life was about peaks and valleys. And he said, Gretchen, when you go to Suffield, not every day is going to be rosy. And in your life, you're going to have some good days and some days that are troubling. He said, just remember, when you're in a valley, know that a peak is right around the corner. Well, today I'm going to talk about my journey and about my peaks and valleys to date. Is anybody here from Hamden, Mass, besides my family? Not one student? Ha, I know why. There were more cows in Hamden than there were people. And there were a lot of German Shepherds. And the problem that I had with that was that every German Shepherd was named Gretchen. I had a very bad complex at a very young age. It was Hamden, however, where I became an entrepreneur for the first time. When I was 8, I established the first ever egg route. The farmer would come down from the mountain, I'd call him on Tuesday, tell him how many dozens I was going to deliver the next day. He'd drop off a box just with egg stuff all over it, chicken stuff all over it, and the next morning I'd get up, take my red wagon, and deliver my eggs. And I knew then, when I was young, there were two things. I'd be an entrepreneur someday, and I needed to get away from the German Shepherds. I got wind when I was a freshman at Minnechaug High School that Suffield was turning co-ed. And I entered in 1994 as one of the first girl boarders. There were 9 of us. 9 of us. There were 25 total women at the school. We listened to 8-track tapes, Van Morrison, Marshall Tucker Band, Allman Brothers, Jethro Tull, no cell phones, and no computers. And I have to tell you, the guys really didn't want us here, especially the seniors. They thought that the women were invading their all-boys school. And when I think back on this, and look at, there was some hazing going on or whatever, and look at the opinions that we had as young adults then, and look at the world today, which today I see diversity and inclusion as being cool. And every one of you students really has an opportunity to be yourself and to live out your dreams. We would have never have thought back in 1974 there would be women CEOs, a black president, or openly gay professional sports players. So the world is yours. Now let's get back to my journey. Graduation came too fast. But one notable memory was under Coach Clary. We had 9 girls for our softball team, and we had an undefeated season in 1976. No one was allowed to be sick. There was no backup at the time. I always had great grades, and was in the top 15 of my class. But when I went to apply to college, every letter came back denied. I did not get into one school. This was very disturbing. So I marched into Mr. Hilliard's office, who was the college counselor, crying my eyeballs out and saying, "You gotta get me into college." He picked up, he said, "Which college do you want to go to, Gretchen?" And I said, "I want to go to Babson College." While I was in his office, he picked up the phone, he called Babson, he put the phone down and he said, "Gretchen, you're attending Babson College." Now, the system just doesn't work that way today, I know, but if it wasn't for him, I would not have attended Babson. At Babson, as you heard, I graduated in finance and quantitative methods, and it was there where I was an entrepreneur for the second time. I founded the first company that sold barrettes on campus called Schwabette's Barrettes. It was very silly, but you know what? It paid for the gas money, and it helped me out during that time. But when I graduated, interest rates were 20%, and it was impossible to get a job. And I did not want to go home to the German Shepherds. So I got a temporary job and took my last money and rented a typewriter, because that's what you did back then. And I got the Boston Globe, and I sent 10 resumes and cover letters a day. One was for Vice President of Finance at Brigham and Women's Hospital, MBA with 3 to 5 years experience. Now, of course, I don't have my MBA or 3 to 5 years experience, but I just went for it. I was called in for the interview, got the job, and had a huge office, should never have been hired, my own secretary, and my job was to monitor a $300 million construction project, and I didn't even know what the word construction meant. It was frightening. But you know what? I didn't want to go home. So I worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and taught myself the job. It was very challenging. One story during this time and during this job, though, that I thought was important to when I was reflecting was that I had to take minutes at the Finance Committee meeting at the top of the State Street Bake Building, which is where the Harvard Club was located, on a monthly basis. And on the Finance Committee was the president of the Price Waterhouse, the dean of the Harvard Business School, the president of New England Bank, the president of the hospital, and the list went on. And I was 21 years old. The other factor was that women were not allowed in the Harvard Club, in this boardroom. So I would have to go through a service entrance, through the kitchen, and into the boardroom to take the minutes. Well, I can guarantee you today that women are walking in that front door. But you know what? I just always put my job first. Merrill Lynch recognized what I did. I went down and worked for them at Merrill on Wall Street, and then found myself working in New Jersey at a commercial real estate mortgage banking firm in my mid-20s. In a very short period of time, I became executive vice president of that firm. In my late 20s, actually, I was, and pulling in a mid-6-figure income. I got married to a wonderful man, actually my brother's roommate in college, and had 2 gorgeous children. My children were 18 months old and 3 months old, and my husband came home from a doctor's appointment and said he had 6 months to live. Nightmare. For some reason, I had obviously a lot to deal with, but for some reason I went into overload. And I said to myself I needed to provide for my children. And I always wanted to own my own business. And of course I had the egret and the Schwabetz barrette, so I knew I could do it. And it took me 2 years to find the money, but when the kids were 2 and 3, and Dan actually was still alive, I established G.S. Wilcox and Company, which actually still is today the only female-founded mortgage banking firm in the country. Along my way, people have always asked me, why are you so successful in a male-dominated field? Because it is a truly male-dominated field. And I would always say, well, I went to an all-boys boarding school the year it turned co-ed, Suffield Academy. That gave me great training. Well, I started my firm in 1994. My husband passed away in 1998. And to bring it up to date, we have since financed $3 billion of loans. I'll be celebrating my 20th year in business next year. I employ 12 people. And on a personal front, my son is graduating from Bucknell next week, and my daughter is a junior at Bucknell. So thanks, Dad, for your advice about peaks and valleys, because I would not have gotten through it without that. Thank you.